Hey there. I didn't know how else to really try to record this, so here we are in my office slash closet area. Everything you see on the wall behind me, those are school notes, sermon notes, and just letters from my time with God and conversations I've had with Him over the last 4 years. I just wanted to get on and really share how lifestyle Christianity changed my life for the better. I was a very broken kid. I grew up in a broken home, grew up in a lot of verbal abuse. Um, I was bullied a lot for my weight, and I really wasn't that heavy, but I was tormented and tortured from all directions growing up. And from that, I was suicidal from the age of 9. I had depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolarism. I spent 3 days in a mental health hospital because I couldn't get my mind to be quiet. They deemed me mentally ill and a danger to myself from that one visit. Um, and then COVID happened, and after COVID, I was doom scrolling on my Facebook page, and I saw a Todd White video come across. And in that video, there was just something different about him. I thought he was a pastor because all the churches were online. I had no grid for who Todd was. I just thought he was another pastor online. But there was something different about him. There was a spark in his eyes that I couldn't place that intrigued me. So I watched a couple more videos that popped up. And one of them, he was praying for people, and he prayed for this guy's leg to grow out, and it did. This was on a Friday. It's very important to know this because this is how the whole story goes. It was on a Friday. I left a comment, and I basically said, like, I know God loves everybody. I just know that he doesn't give up on me. That's about as far as I know him. Like, I poured out my junk. I'm like, I cuss like a sailor when I'm mad, and I have a lot of mental problems, and I just poured everything out on this comment. And at the end, I'm like, maybe I'm just too broken and too shattered to know him the way that you know him. And so I went and I worked my 12-hour shift that night. When I got off work, it was very strange for me because I had this thought pop up into my head that said, go to Texas. And I'm like, what on earth is in Texas? I thought about it for a minute and I realized, oh, there's this church in Texas. So I'll go visit this church. So I'm looking for flights, and these flights are expensive day of. It's like $600 or so. So I was looking at the cheaper flights later on, and the voice comes back. It says, if you don't go now, you're not going. So I book the expensive flight, and I fly out, and I'm only going to go for Sunday morning, fly back Sunday night. So I'll fly out Saturday, get there Sunday, fly back Sunday night. Well, I ended up there for a whole week and a half. In that time, people were paying for hotel rooms for me, buying me clothes because I showed up in what I had on me. Just take what I have on me right now, add a hoodie, and that's what I had. I didn't have a change of clothes. I didn't have a bag with me, nothing. I was only going to be there for a day, so I didn't pack anything. People were feeding me, and towards the end of my time there, they were handing me money, and it was all because the Lord asked them to do it, and I didn't know what was going on half the time. I didn't know what to do with the money because that's never happened to me before, so I just kept throwing it back in the offering bucket. But in that week, I won a scholarship to the school. And the crazy story about that is the girl who bought me coffee that morning, her name was drawn first. And before they drew the second name, I just felt something in me. And I was like, no way. And as soon as I said no way, they called my name. And I won a $500 scholarship to this school that I was previewing. And I wasn't intending to go to this school because I wasn't going to be able to afford it. Couldn't afford it, so I wasn't going to go. I've done this like 3 times already, trying on my phone, and it kept cutting me off. So I wasn't going to go. I won the scholarship. I went to Warriors Arise, which is like Power and Love. And I went through my first ever prayer tunnel. And I got somewhere in the middle, between the beginning and the middle, and it was someone laid their hand on my head and blew on me. And as soon as the air hit me, my body dropped out like a sack of potatoes. like a wet noodle. Like I was fully aware that somebody caught me, fully aware of my surroundings, but I just lost all control of my body. And the best way I could explain it is it's like being put to sleep without being put to sleep. And so that was my first experience ever of being what they would call being slain in the spirit. I always thought people faked it. So there was no faking it for me because I thought it was just a performance that people did. And every time I've fallen out, I've gone limp and I have no control. It's crazy. It's hard to explain. It's not something that you just make happen. It just happens. I've seen like holy laughter hit a room where people are laughing. Some people are joining in because they feel left out, sure. But I've felt it authentically where I'm not someone who just giggles just to giggle and I'm uncontrollably laughing. And other times that has happened, I've been knocked out, put to sleep, just like when I went through the prayer tunnel. I'm fully aware of the surroundings, but it's like being put to sleep without being put to sleep. And someone had explained it's basically like God needs to do a surgery on your heart, parts of your heart where if you were awake and active and in full control of your body, you wouldn't let him touch those places. And so I started, anytime the Lord wanted to knock me out, I was going to let him, because I wanted him to remove all of the snares and tears out of my heart. And I'd searched for God my entire life. I grew up in church. I grew up in religion. I went from Catholic church to Assembly of God church to Baptist to Lutheran to non-denominational. I've been all over the map, and I still couldn't find God the way that I wanted to. I could know about him. I had head knowledge. I knew what the Bible said, but it wasn't clicking. There was something missing, and I couldn't explain it, and I didn't know what it was until I got to school. And it was there that I experienced the love of God for the first time. I experienced his presence. And this is going to sound so weird, but I had a plethora of issues, and all of them were different. And the pastors were patient with me. They gave me a chance when they didn't have to. There were times where I was included into things that I didn't feel I would have been included in had it not been for people in my corner. I never thought that I was good enough for certain things or welcome enough. I always felt like an outsider, and so it was really cool that I still have a word from when I got baptized of you'll no longer be on the outside looking in, but you'll be on the inside looking out. That was my first year. My first year was really hard because all the voices in my head were really loud, and they tried to get me to leave the school. They wanted me to kill myself, which obviously I wasn't going to do because I knew better. So I just sat in a chair until a pastor came and prayed for me, and found out that there was just a lot of pent-up emotions that I had never let out because I was always taught to just bury all of my issues. Well, that tends to be a problem because then you explode like a volcano. So my first year was tough, but there was a lot of transformation and a lot of freedom that year. My second year, I didn't know if I was going to be able to go because I couldn't afford it. They gave me a scholarship, and my family paid for a good portion of my schooling, along with some friends that helped out, and a good portion that came out of my own pocket. And I was included in some cool stuff, got to do some things that I never would have ever dreamed that I'd get to do. And I always